Hey, welcome back to my channel. What's up, my Nimrods? It's Gage, coming back at you guys again with another dose of that fresh, never frozen Yu-Gi-Oh content. I am so happy that you guys would spend just a couple minutes with me here today, talk about a children's card game we both mutually enjoy so fucking much. So at the moment this video goes up, we are currently in the thick of YCS New Jersey. We are still in day one, and so far, things are being shooken up. New time limit rules are in effect, and a hell of a lot of people are drawing. Apparently round 4 of the YCS had over 25% of the players ending in a draw. That's pretty damn impressive. But also there's a huge pool of players at this YCS, over 1,300 players in attendance at YCS New Jersey. It's going to be a really interesting and a really awesome event. But today, while we're in the thick of the event, I wanted to put out my bold prediction of what I think which deck is going to come out on top. The format is extremely blown out and extremely diverse, and that's something very interesting, so it might kind of be hard to pinpoint what deck's going to take the lead here at YCS New Jersey. But I think I have a pretty good idea of what deck's going to take the crown. And that is a deck I talked about very recently on my channel, and that is Sky Strikers. I very recently double backed on my opinion of pure Sky Strikers in a video that I talked about just going over exactly why pure Sky Strikers work as a deck and why it's so powerful right now and in the hands of a very good player. And it's a lot of those same key points that I brought up in that video, which I'll be talking about again a little bit more in depth in this video, why I think Sky Strikers will come out on top. Now I want to make it very clear that when I say Sky Strikers, I'm actually not just talking about the pure version, and that's a very important point I have to get into. Let's just get into that right now. So why do I think Sky Strikers, the newest, hottest archetype to come out of Dark Saviors, will come out on top at YCS New Jersey? Well, one of the key points I think is the fact that the deck is so flexible. And when I mean this deck is flexible, I mean it can be played in multiple different forms. Whether you want to stick with playing it in the pure version with multi-rule, which is also just an extremely powerful card, you could absolutely stick with the pure version with the multi-rules, maxing out on like afterburners, maybe teching and jamming waves, 3 engages going the whole 9 yards, and then just playing a package of hand traps or, you know, some other tech cards that you wish to play. That is one of the most powerful and potent forms of Sky Strikers you can play, and I think it's going to be the one that shows up the most at the top tables here at the YCS, just because it has so much diverse plays and it's just very consistent too. Kind of being akin to that of Zodiac, where Zodiac had a lot of plays that it could make off of one card, that card really being Tenki or Barrage, anything to get you to wrap here. Zodiac would be able to make the same board over and over again, which was normally consisting of that of Daigusto Emerald, plus Zodiac Dryden and a couple draws off of that too, just off of wrap here alone or a way to get to wrap here. And while Sky Strikers have that same kind of charm of having maybe one card combos in the form of either Engage getting you to Hornet Bit or Hornet Bit alone, these plays aren't nearly as potent as that, getting a couple free draws off of Daigusto Emerald, but that doesn't discount them as being bad. It is very easy to snowball advantage in this deck in combination with your Engages as well as the Hornet Bits and also Floating Ray if you can get it into play. There's a lot of technical play with this deck to understand, to be able to slowly chip your opponent if you're playing the mirror match out of resources. And it is also that entire aspect of play, which is slowly whittling down your opponent's resources, that other decks are going to have to understand when going against Sky Strikers to beat them. I think Sky Strikers is a very hard deck to beat with even any other deck, just because you have to understand all the levels of technicality with what your opponent can float with, what cards are most important that you have to get out of the way, where there's really no easy win button against this deck unless you're playing like Secret Village of the Spellcaster. The easy buttons to win against Sky Strikers are very few and far between. Cards like Gamma Seal can easily shut down the deck if you drop it in their main monster zone. It's going to be very difficult for them to get around. Altergeist is a pretty easy deck to be able to weave Secret Village of the Spellcasters in, but it's also very odd because if you tech Secret Village of the Spellcasters, it may only be good against Sky Strikers and it may be subpar against any other deck like Goki. You're just going to get smashed. But outside of those two easy buttons against the deck, there's not really anything that's going to be that impactful against Sky Strikers, unless you of course draw your Jewel and Lockbird, which really every deck should be maining Jewel and Lockbird at this point. But really outside of Jewel and Lockbird and kind of the main hand trap package, Sky Strikers is a deck that can very easily play through hand traps. Because this deck is able to accumulate so much advantage in a turn, having your opponent stop one play normally isn't as crucial as you think. For example, if your opponent activates an infinite impermanence to stop Sky Striker Ace Kagari from grabbing something from the graveyard, you can just blink it into Shizuku to get another card during the end phase, and really you were going to go plus like 3 that turn anyway, so it doesn't matter that you're missing that one card from the graveyard. Although Kagari is a very important card to resolve, being able to add any card from your graveyard back to your hand, sometimes being either the Widow Anchor, or it could be multi-rule if you dump it off of Foolish Burial Goods, anything to get you to multi-rule. There's a lot of cards you can grab with Kagari, making it a very important card, but blinking it into Shizuku is like not that bad. The thing I'm saying is that this card's able to just make dumb advantage plays no matter what you do to it, except if you drop Joel Lockbird. Again, Joel Lockbird's a dumb card. I just think that entire aspect of the deck being able to easily play through hand traps is something especially important in this format, whereas most combo decks would just crumble at the sight of an Ash Blossom or a Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, which by the way no one's really playing anymore, I get it, where most decks would just have to shrivel up and pass turn. Sky Strikers can play through those hand traps and still make dumb advantage plays. Another reason I think Sky Strikers will come out on top is because of the fact that they are so splashable in just about every other deck. Decks like Spiral Sky Striker as well as Trickstar Sky Striker are extremely powerful decks that are able to utilize the Sky Striker engine of really just engages, Hornet Bits, and then maybe a tech of Afterburner as well as Widow Anchor, Really honing in on the Trickstar variant, I think this is going to be a very popular one this weekend, as it has a lot of combo plays that really weren't possible with Trickstars before, being able to drop Saryuja's Skull Drake and draw you into 4 different cards, burning your opponents for just obscene amount of damage. And we also have to point out, we can't ignore the fact that burn damage is extremely valuable and important with the new time limit rules in place. I fully expect to see a lot of Trickstar decks in the top tables, but I also fully expect to see a lot of those Trickstar decks teching in the Sky Striker engine. I said it before, but I think Widow Anchor is a hell of a card. Being able to snatch up opponent's monster, but also negating the effect is extremely powerful anyways. And to add on to the technical level of the deck, if you're playing the mirror match, something important to note is that if your opponent activates Widow Anchor to try to snatch up your Sky Striker Shizuku, to flip it into their Kagari, you can actually activate your own Widow Anchor in response to negate the effect. And since Widow Anchor uses the then clause, your opponent can't snatch it up since you already negated the effect of your own Shizuku. That's just again another example of a small intricacy of learning the technical plays with the Sky Striker deck, and the more knowledgeable player will be able to use these to their advantage. And since there's just a plethora of these small little micro interactions that can actually benefit the player greatly, I believe the more knowledgeable player, the best players will be playing Sky Striker. And since all these great intelligible players are using this deck, they'll be able to use those little micro interactions as much as they can to be able to steal games. And the last reason I want to give that I think Sky Striker will steal YCS New Jersey is the fact that we've only had the deck for about 2 weeks. Dark Saviors was released very recently, and this is the first major event that we have Sky Strikers under us, and I think that's going to play into the advantage of the deck taking first place. As we start to see tournament winning decks show up, we get to hop into the minds of a lot of players piloting the Sky Striker deck. And when we learn how these players will be playing the deck, we can side appropriately or adjust our gameplay according to that. We have no prior knowledge of the deck besides maybe I think a week of regionals last week. So there's really not enough data to go off of when we're trying to decide how we want to play against the deck. We can look at past data from the OCG, but we can only look at so much because we have to take in mind that the TCG meta is entirely different than the OCG meta just because of how our ban lists are set up. I think this lack of prior data and this event really being the flagship event for Sky Strikers will definitely play into the factor of this deck taking the #1 spot, and that is why I think Sky Strikers will take YCS New Jersey home. But what deck do you guys think will win YCS New Jersey? Do you think I'm wrong that Sky Strikers in some variant, whether it's being teched in an engine or being played at its purest form, will take the event? What do you guys think? Drop it down in the comment section below. That being said, if you guys liked the video, be sure to like the video, thumbs up the video, especially if you enjoyed the video. If you did like the video, please do consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. It makes me feel hella good inside. And that being said, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like, comment, definitely subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys. Nim signing out.